Hi folks, and welcome at Season 2 of Windows in the Cloud, our dedicated tech series for everyone interested in Windows 365. Before we start and I'm introducing my next guest, please make sure to register on our YouTube page, Windows IT Pro, which is available and you can find it in the link below here. So with that, I'm very excited, as I said before, to introduce our guest, Jeremy Chapman from the Microsoft Mechanics Show. So Jeremy, how are you doing?
Good. Thanks for having me on, Christiaan.
Yeah, it's great to have you on a show right now because normally we join you on a show. So before we jump a little bit more into that, can you share a little bit about yourself and your role within Microsoft?
Yeah, it's great to be on the other side of the desk for once. I do that sometimes, by the way, with Config Manager and other topics when we're on the road filming shows. So if you're not familiar with some of the things that I've done at Microsoft, basically, I started out in the deployment team at Microsoft building solutions like Business Desktop Deployment and Microsoft Deployment Toolkit, and part of the what was then System Center side. And then we kind of grew into doing more things around Office and really reimagining how Office was packaged and deployed in the enterprise. So I've got this long background of kind of Windows and Office deployment. And then in the Office time frame, we started something that you might know about, which is called Microsoft Mechanics. And that was initially called the Garage Series. We're huge fans of Top Gear and kind of the stunts. We did some crazy things in the beginning, installing Office Click to Run, jumping out of an airplane, or seeing if we could work offline, like in the desert in the Louisiana Bayou, those types of things. But that's since kind of mushroomed out and gotten bigger and bigger across, the rest of Microsoft 365 beyond the client apps, and then into Azure and Surface and the data and AI side, and everything really commercial at Microsoft. So it's been a great journey, and I've been at Microsoft more than a decade.
Yeah, that's awesome. And as you know yourself, we are working on offline mode in Windows 365. So I will let the PM know to record a demo video like this as well, jumping out of a plane.
Love it.
So we recorded a lot of sessions already, even like with Windows Virtual Desktop, Azure Virtual Desktop back in the days as well. And now with Windows 365. You have been independently involved in like those different products while recording and as well using it internally and such. So can you tell a little bit why you got so interested in Windows 365 and maybe the high level differences you discovered yourself while using them?
Yeah, so I think, like a lot of people watching, they've probably dabbled in building out, various desktop solutions to be able to remotely access desktops that are hosted somewhere else. There are lots of ways to do that, but they're always, somewhat challenging in terms of how to get, to that endpoint, make sure that it's provisioned, it has all the right components in it. What I love about Windows 365 is it's probably the easiest way to get something like that up and running, to have all of the business-ready components that somebody needs to get working, all the productivity apps, VPN clients, etc., and then just, manage it like you would manage a physical desktop, like all the tools that I've been using and kind of been part of at Microsoft for my 10 plus year journey with things like Endpoint Manager and Intune and Config Manager, like all of those types of processes that we've learned really apply here as well. So there's not a lot of kind of retooling or learning from a management perspective. So it's really easy to get everything up and running and get started, and super familiar from an end user perspective because you just log in and it's your normal desktop and it's dedicated to use. There's not like some kind of sharing going on or things that might not be the same as they were yesterday. From a user perspective, it's super easy to get up and running and get comfortable with that Cloud PC.
Yeah, that's great. And that really sits in our vision and making things easy, loved by users, trusted by IT, and live up to the SaaS solution that we deliver in market. And I normally always, when customers tell me this, hey, what is the difference between, like, let's say Azure Virtual Desktop or other virtualization technology, is that we build it as a full end-to-end solution with the easiness of doing things for a physical PC as well. So the whole knowledge gap or knowledge need for Windows 365 is just the same as managing a physical PC, just like you call it as well. And an interesting question maybe to ask you, because you have been on a journey of Office, Click to Run, jumping out of a plane, seeing the transformation from Office Perpetual to subscription, right? How do you see the similarity here with bringing Windows in the cloud as a SaaS product with just like a flip of a switch assigning a license experience? Do you see similarity here?
It's totally similar. It's totally similar from the infrastructure component. When you think about it, like if you used to get remote desktop services environment up and running or VDI up and running, you had multiple servers, lots of metal that you were managing on premises, lots of different connections between those different points to do. You know, you had your maybe a connection broker, and you had other servers that were actually running the virtual machines, and then you had licensing servers and all these things. The nice thing with SaaS, and this is the same for Office 365 and Microsoft 365, is that all of that complexity goes away. All of the, standing up the metal, getting the networking connections and all those things configured, especially with physical cables and all of that, and just letting, Microsoft in this case run that service for you. So you don't have to worry about things like scaling or performance, or is my user going to be able to hit that service, or what happens, like if you had on-prem running on the weekend and something goes down or there's a power outage or something else, what's going to happen there? That's all Microsoft's problem in that case. So for an IT perspective, you're basically just configuring the settings, the policies, making sure it's got all the, the security, the experiences that you want in those cloud PCs. So you don't have to worry about all of the metal, and is the metal running, and are they wired up and configured properly? That's all the problem of Microsoft in this case. And that's the beauty of really any SaaS service.
Yeah, you're spot on, I guess, here. So it's great to hear it from you as well. And I sometimes compare it with how you configured Exchange on premises back in the days, right? Building up Exchange server, all those mailbox, the databases and such. And now it's just a flip of a switch. You just go to admin.microsoft.com, purchase an Exchange Online license or Office 365. And then you have a full Exchange server for like just a couple of bucks, right? And that's the same with Windows 365. We provide that same SaaS offering coming from Microsoft 365, from the existing portals you're familiar with, as well as the management solution you're familiar with. So you touched on a base of on an element of hosting and managing and performance. So one of the things I sometimes hear in the field from customers and the community is, That's Windows 365. Do I still need an Azure subscription and such? But with the new Azure AD join support, that's no longer needed, right? So can you share a little bit on that, what you experienced with the new features there?
Yeah, I gotta say, you set up Azure Virtual Desktop, especially before, Azure AD join was set up. You had to have, Active Directory and a domain controller, either running, services in the cloud or connecting to your on-premises infrastructure, and some Azure services, obviously. Now, with Windows 365 and using Azure AD Join, it's super easy. You can have that identity and access management service being operated in the cloud. So even that component, and that wasn't like the hardest component if you compare it to again, the old kind of bare metal days with Windows Server, that was still probably one of the harder parts of getting that up and running, was the Active Directory integration. And now that goes away too. So now you just got something that works right out of the box without any kind of dependent services that you have to manage and make sure that, people are able to connect to, and that you've got the right policies there configured to connect maybe your on-prem directory services infrastructure. It's just, again, another path to be cloud complete, or, everything running in the cloud. Again, taking away some of those hybrid nuances that might have tripped people up in the past in terms of getting everything configured and running.
Yeah, that's great. And it all runs in a Microsoft managed environment. So even the VMs are hosted by Microsoft in this case. And even like in our last episode of season number 1, we had the folks from the Autopatch team joining us, and they take it even further. They make automated patching of Windows possible on top of Windows 365. So really where you are in your journey to the digital, or in the digital transformation, we can support with Windows 365 with that, and as well with Autopatch and other services on top. So
yeah, and I'm working actually with the Autopatch team at the moment and building out some of that content as well. So great thing with Autopatch is, something that was not trivial to set up before were deployment rings. How do I get, my 1% users the fastest, validation builds out, and then my 9% kind of the next ring, and then my 80% or 90% the broader ring, doing all of that work for you. You have to set up different groups, you have to set up all the deployment ring policies, and then for Office, we've got something like the monthly enterprise channel for servicing. Now the Autopatch service basically says, okay, we'll do all of that for you and configure all these policies, and set up all your CSP profile policies as well for Office. And it's just basically clicking a few times in the portal to give access to the Autopatch service. And then again, all that complexity goes away. And they even monitor, like, to make sure that the patches were applied successfully and everybody's got the updates that they need, to be successful, or roll back if something does fail, heaven forbid, that you have to bring it back to a previous version of Windows 11 or Windows 10. So exciting stuff. And I think the great thing, again, with Windows 365, because it is like managing a normal, Windows local desktop, like a physical machine, basically from an MDM perspective, all of that is super familiar, and all of the processes even Autopatch uses are something that you can follow along with if you've just got some history with things like Intune or normal Windows update management or device management.
Yeah, that's great. And we are jumping in some demos as well to show some of those experiences in just a bit. But before I do that, you've recently had like an episode on the Mechanic Show with Scott Manchester, theoretically my boss and friend of the show as well, of course.
Yeah.
And one thing you covered there with him were the Windows integration features and such. So first of all, let me ask you a question. What is your most favorite feature coming up as part of Windows 365? And explain a little bit what we showed in that episode, and we can as well show the episode here in the bottom so people can look at it as a follow-up to this episode.
Yeah, so the massive integration that's coming. I think everybody sees like the promise and the importance of Windows 365 and really what it means from a client computing perspective. So at the very first side of things, accessing your Cloud PC, the new Windows 365 app, I think is going to make things a lot nicer just to be able to get to your Cloud PC environments or environment if you have one. And then the other thing that I think is super cool, and I love the kind of the integration that we've done in terms of working with things like desktops. And I'm a huge user of desktops. I even used it, to move between, different remote desktop sessions in the past, but it wasn't as elegant as what's coming now, where you can just get to your Cloud PC as another desktop. So it's super easy. And you don't have to do all the fiddling of like which host has all of your Windows shortcut key controls and all of those things. It's just super integrated and really easy to get to. And then the other thing that I think is super fascinating is because I've been so close to all the different technologies that kind of lead up to this, which is that offline mode that you're referring to. And I don't know if it'll work jumping out of an airplane, but it probably should theoretically. Getting to the point where you can do the right degree of kind of replication to local disk and being able to sync changes and all the things that you can do, when you operate something that's been cached locally and then making sure that it can sync back up with the cloud. Like, there have been a lot of milestones to get to a point where we can deliver something like that. So I'm super excited to see what that looks like once everything's up and running and really experience that for myself, because that's one of those things, again, where I've kind of seen the chapters of the book get written to get to the point where we can do something like this over the years. And it'll be really cool to see all that stuff come together as one cohesive solution.
Yeah, I think that's the reason why we got connected. You got connected with Scott Manchester, because we really share the passion in this space and the vision. So thanks for sharing that. I think it's now time to show some demos as well. So do you have something prepared for us to show?
Yeah, demos are the best part, and I actually want to start out and just make sure that for my fellow admins out there that we start out in the Microsoft Endpoint Manager portal and really show some really cool things there. So what I'd like to do is kind of walk through some of the IT admin controls that I really like about Windows 365. Then we'll jump over into a user environment and see some of the things there and how familiar it is. And something I learned about today was the higher DPI support that even right now, I'm loving the way everything looks, and it looks so native even on my local machine here. So I want to show a couple of those experiences. So where would you like me to start, Christiaan? I can start maybe with the provisioning policy.
Yeah, let's do that.
All right, so here I'm just in Microsoft Endpoint Manager's Admin Center. You can see that under Devices in Windows 365, I'm right here, and you can see I've got 45 Cloud PCs provisioned. Everything's looking good. Our network connections are all looking good. Everything's green. That's a good thing. Now, to get everything working, you've got to have your groups and everything set up. And the nice thing is provisioning policies, they're kind of predicated on groups. So if you've got people licensed, and I won't show that here, and you've got them in the right groups, then to create your own Cloud PCs, it's as simple as just going in and creating a provisioning policy. So you can see I've got one here already for my sales desktops running Windows 10 in this case, but I'm going to go ahead and create a new policy. And we'll go ahead and give it a name. I'll just call it Mechanics. I'll leave the description blank for now. And this is one of those areas that I love because this is something that, you can do that, again, like we said, doesn't require a local directory service running. You can use that with hybrid Azure AD join, or you can just create the Azure AD join type of Cloud PCs, and that's going to be super easy in terms of not having to worry about directory services integration. Everything's in the cloud. Now, the nice thing too with networking is if you've got VNets and virtual networks set up in Azure, of course you can configure your Cloud PCs to talk to those. One of the things that I think, again, talking about the consistency of having this run like you would manage a physical machine that you're provisioning, is you could use the Microsoft hosted network. And that way, if you do need to get to a few on-prem apps, for example, and you've got, for example, in your normal provisioning policies for your app services in Intune, you're just already provisioning the VPN client. It's going to be the same thing here. So I love just keeping it as the Microsoft hosted network, and then it's going to get all the same apps, the same policies as basically every PC that I'm deploying out through Intune. Now, because we're located at the moment in West US, we're going to go ahead and pick West US 2 as our region. But you can see all the different regions where I can have our Cloud PCs running in case you are in another part of the world or have multiple different geographies that you operate in. So that way everything's nice and close to the user. So next, this is where some of the options show up in terms of what you can provision. So I'm going to go ahead and show you what I can do here. So I can select a custom image. So that's going to give me the abilities to, for example, have an image that's got a bunch of maybe line of business apps or things preloaded. This happens to be an image for our frontline workers. But because we have all of our apps already provisioned through the Intune app service and all of our policies managed, the nice thing with this is we can actually just use a gallery image, and there are tons of gallery images available to you. You can see basically everything that's supported from Windows 10 all the way through up into Windows 11. There are two different flavors here for Windows 11, the one that's got the Microsoft 365 apps pre-installed, as well as one that has OS optimizations for Cloud PC. Again, because my M365 apps are being provisioned through Intune anyway, by default for all my users, I can just select this one here. And now I know that I'll get the right image, and all my apps and policies will get layered on via Intune. So now in terms of Windows settings, I have the ability to specify my language and my region. And something else that we mentioned before was the ability to do Autopatch. If you haven't started with your ring deployment and you're doing update management using rings, this will get all of that running for you. So it's very little effort to get all of those best practices configured. But in our case, we've already got that configured in our tenant, so I'll pick none here and click next. So now for assignments, this is kind of where the magic happens, because now I need to basically take this policy and match make it to the group that will get these Cloud PCs deployed to. So I'm going to go ahead and just choose my IT staff. That's the team that I'm in. I'll hit select, and I'll go next, and you'll see kind of the different settings that I've selected, my region and image and everything, and which groups have been assigned. And I could hit create here, but because I want to save a few minutes of time, I've already provisioned a Cloud PC environment. So let me go ahead and go to that one. So since I already have an environment provisioned, I'm going to go to that in the browser. To get to it, you just go to windows365.microsoft.com. You can see here that I have my IT team Windows 11 machine already up and running. So I'll go ahead and open this in the browser. And once I do that, it just looks like Windows 11. And it's basically full fidelity, full feature. I've turned on high DPI in this case, which I love as a setting. I can collapse the toolbar here so I get the full screen of it. So now with my Cloud PC in full screen, you'll see it just looks like a natively installed copy of Windows 11. And the great thing is, with the browser, you can get to it from a Windows device, Mac, mobile devices, Linux even. And there are also native apps available, and we have a new app coming out soon for Windows 365 as well. Now, Christiaan, I know there's a ton that you can do, with Windows 365 from the browser, with a few exceptions like sharing your webcam. But with the Windows 365 app, what are some of the additional capabilities that you get? Because you're the expert here.
Yeah, thanks, Jeremy. So with the app, you have all the local to cloud integration benefits. So webcam, multimedia redirection, Teams redirection as well. So if you use the Windows 365 app that's coming in the near-term future, you get all of that. Plus as well, all the benefits of the web app. So everything you just showed with the user actions, the capabilities to reboot and reset a Cloud PC and things like that are familiar to the Windows 365 service will be possible to use as part of Windows 11 as part of the client, the app, the Windows 365 app. And we are as well doing improvements on the web portal client experience. So think about like redirection support improvements. They will come as well in the near-term future. And one of the other key aspects of the Windows 365 app are that you have like possibilities to go full screen windowed mode. It works on all versions, SKUs of Windows 11. But the greater thing to explain here is that we will ship it in box as part of Windows 11. So if you are in Windows 11 already, you have the app just baked into the operating system. So no need to deploy or whatsoever.
Nice. Looking forward to having that and trying that out.
Yeah, I will give you early access internally. I will do that for you. So with that, I would really like to thank you for being the first guest of season 2. So how can people stay in touch with you?
Yeah, so you can find me, like on Twitter, for example, at Deploy Jeremy. I've got my own TikTok channel as well now. It is 2022. And I've got the Mechanics channel on YouTube, as well as my own kind of small YouTube channel with a bunch of different tips and tricks for remote work and hardware. So check out, if you go to Microsoft.com/mechanics, that'll take you to our YouTube. Otherwise, at Deploy Jeremy, you'll probably find all of my social presences on the web.
Thanks, Jeremy. And I definitely would like to invite you back on the show at some point. And with that, I would like to thank you, a reoccurring visitor or new visitor. So thanks for watching again or start watching. And I hope to see you back soon. If you're interested in learning more or see more episodes, you just go to aka.ms/Windows in the Cloud, and then you will find more. So hope to see you next time. Thank you.